There are moments in life that feel ordinary until suddenly they are not. Moments where you're scrolling, thinking, distracted, just moving through your day like any other. And then something pulls you in. Something stops you. Something whispers, "Wait, this is for you." And you can't explain it, but your heart begins to beat just a little faster. Your mind goes quiet. Your spirit leans in. This is one of those moments. This is not random. This is not coincidence. This is not just another message passing by your eyes. This is a divine interruption. And the fact that you are here right now, reading this, means something in the spiritual realm has already shifted in your favor. Because out of millions of distractions, out of endless noise, out of everything that could have pulled your attention away, you are still here. And that is exactly what heaven needed. Because there is something you were about to miss. Something you were about to overlook. Something that, if left unseen, could have altered the direction of your life in a way you were never meant to experience. You may not fully understand it yet, but deep down, something inside you already feels it. That subtle unease, that quiet tension, that feeling like something isn't right, even when everything looks normal on the surface. You felt it, haven't you? That strange shift in your energy over the past few days. The unexplained heaviness. The sudden thoughts that came out of nowhere. The moments where you paused and wondered, why do I feel like something is about to happen? You tried to ignore it. You told yourself it was nothing. Just stress. Just overthinking. Just another passing feeling. But what if it wasn't? What if that feeling was a warning? What if your spirit has been trying to alert you long before this message ever reached you? Because here is the truth that Archangel Michael is revealing right now. Heaven always sends signals before it sends storms. And the signs have already begun. Not loudly, not dramatically, but subtly, precisely, intentionally, in the small things, in the repeated thoughts, in the sudden emotional shifts, in the moments where you felt disconnected without knowing why, in the times where you almost made a decision but something stopped you. That wasn't hesitation. That was protection. You see, there are forces at work that you cannot see with your physical eyes. Movements happening behind the scenes. Alignments shifting. Doors opening and closing in ways you don't yet understand. And right now, something is approaching your life. Something unexpected. Something that carries weight. Something that requires you to be aware before it arrives. This is why the urgency feels so strong. This is why this message feels different from anything else you've heard. Because this is not meant to entertain you. This is meant to prepare you. And time is not as flexible as you think. There is a window. A very specific moment. A divine timing that has been marked, not by chance, but by design. And that moment is closer than you realize. Closer than your comfort. Closer than your plans. Closer than your expectations. And here is the part that you cannot ignore. If you had skipped this, if you had brushed this off, if you had said, "I'll come back later," you would have stepped into what's coming unprepared. That's how precise this moment is. That's how intentional this interruption is. Heaven is not trying to scare you. Heaven is trying to position you. Because what's ahead will test your awareness. It will test your discernment. It will test whether you listen to the noise around you or the voice within you. And right now, Archangel Michael stands as a guardian at the edge of this moment, saying, "Pay attention. Do not delay. Do not dismiss what you feel. You have been brought here for a reason. You are not here by accident. You are not hearing this by coincidence. You are here because something in your spirit is still connected to truth. still sensitive, still awake. And that is why you were chosen to receive this first. So before you move forward, before you scroll, before you let your mind wander again, pause. Breathe. And ask yourself honestly, what if this moment is more important than it seems? Because the next part will reveal what is actually coming and why it cannot be ignored. And once you hear it, you will never see the next 24 hours the same way again. Type "I am alert" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 2026 is now surrounding your path. There is a timing in the spirit that does not follow human clocks. You may look at your phone, see the hours passing, believe you still have time, believe things can wait, believe tomorrow will come just like every other day has come before. But what you do not see is that in the unseen realm, something has already been set in motion. Something has already been marked. Something has already been scheduled, not by chance but by divine order. And right now, heaven is not speaking in general terms. Heaven is speaking in precision. There is a timeline, a very specific timeline, and it does not bend to comfort, distraction, or delay. You heard it in the message, and it may have sounded unusual, even overwhelming at first. But the reason it was so specific is because this moment is not symbolic. It is not vague. It is not open-ended. It is exact. It is intentional. It is urgent. Because when heaven gives a time, it is not to create fear. It is to create focus. There is something about the appointed hour that carries weight. Something about a specific moment where decisions become irreversible, where awareness becomes critical, where preparation becomes the difference between clarity and confusion. And that moment is approaching faster than you think. You may feel a resistance even now as you hear this. A voice that says, "This is too much," or "I'll think about it later," or "It's not that serious." But understand this clearly. That voice is not aligned with your protection. That voice is not aligned with your awareness. That voice is the same force that tries to keep you distracted when something important is about to happen. Because if you delay, you drift. And if you drift, you miss timing. And if you miss timing, you walk into moments unprepared. That is why this message was not delayed. That is why it reached you now. Because heaven is working ahead of what you can see. Archangel Michael reveals something important in this moment. There is a narrowing window, not closed, not gone, but narrowing. A space where you are being given the opportunity to align yourself before something unfolds. And once that moment passes, the situation will not be the same. The energy will shift. The outcome will depend on whether you were aware or unaware. This is why urgency is not pressure. It is protection. Think about the moments in your life where you said, "I wish I had listened sooner." Moments where you felt something but ignored it. Moments where you sensed something was off but chose comfort instead of awareness. Moments where later, everything made sense, but by then, it was already too late to change what had happened. This is not one of those moments. This is the moment before that moment. This is where you are being given insight before impact. Where you are being given clarity before confusion. Where you are being given awareness before consequence. And the difference between those who rise and those who fall into chaos is not strength. It is not luck. It is not even knowledge. It is timing. Right now, heaven is asking you to pay attention to timing. Not tomorrow. Not later tonight. Not when you feel like it. Now. Because something is aligning itself with the next 24 hours. Something that will not announce itself loudly. Something that will not come with obvious warning signs. Something that will appear normal on the surface but carry deeper implications beneath it. And if you are not alert, you will treat it like every other moment. You will respond the same way. You will move the same way. You will think the same way. And that is where the danger lies. Because the enemy does not always attack through chaos. Sometimes it moves through normalcy, through routine, through things that look familiar. And that is why this timeline matters so much. Because you are being called to step out of autopilot, to step out of distraction, to step out of passive living, and to become aware of what is unfolding around you in real time. There is a reason the message emphasized a specific hour, a specific day, a specific moment, because that is the point where alignment must meet action, where awareness must turn into decision, where preparation must become intentional. You are not being asked to panic. You are being asked to position yourself. To be still but not asleep. To be calm but not careless. To be aware but not overwhelmed. Because when you are aligned with divine timing, you move differently. You notice things others miss. You avoid paths that would have led to confusion. You make decisions that seem small but carry protection within them. And suddenly, what could have gone wrong did not. Not because nothing happened, but because you were ready. And that is what this moment is about. Preparation, alignment, timing. Heaven is not late. Heaven is not early. Heaven is precise. And right now, you are standing in a moment that has been marked for you. A moment that you cannot afford to treat casually. A moment that requires your full attention. Because what is coming next will reveal exactly why this timing mattered and what is actually approaching your life. So stay with this. Do not drift. Do not disconnect. Because you are being guided step by step for a reason. Type "I trust divine timing" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1155 is now lining your path. There is something you cannot see, but it is already in motion. It is not loud. It is not obvious. It does not arrive with chaos or alarms. In fact, that is what makes it dangerous. Because what is coming toward you will not look like danger at first. It will look familiar. It will feel ordinary. You will appear as just another moment in your day, just another conversation, just another decision, just another step in your routine. And that is exactly why it must be revealed to you now. Because the greatest dangers are not the ones that announce themselves. They are the ones that blend in. Right now, Archangel Michael is showing a vision, not of destruction, but of subtle disruption. A moment where something small shifts, something minor changes, something seemingly insignificant presents itself. And in that moment, a choice will be placed before you. A response will be required from you. A decision will move through you. And if you are unaware, that moment will pass like any other. But if you are aware, you will recognize it instantly. You see, what is approaching your life is not meant to destroy you completely. That is not its purpose. Its purpose is more strategic, more precise. It is meant to redirect you, to pull you slightly off course, to create confusion where there should be clarity, to introduce doubt where there should be certainty, to make you second-guess what you already know deep within your spirit. It is subtle, but its impact can be significant. You have experienced this before, even if you did not recognize it at the time. Moments where you made a decision that seemed small, but later you realized it shifted everything. Moments where you trusted something that felt slightly off, but you ignored that feeling. Moments where you said yes when something inside you whispered no. That whisper that was your protection. And the danger now is not that you do not have that voice. The danger is that you might ignore it again. Because what is coming will test your discernment in a way that feels almost invisible. It will not feel like a major crossroads. It will feel like a passing moment, a simple interaction, a quick response, a casual choice. But within that moment there is weight. There is consequence. There is direction. Archangel Michael speaks with clarity now. Be still and observe. Do not react quickly. Do not respond out of habit. Do not move the way you have always moved. Because what is being placed before you carries more than what it appears to carry. You must understand this deeply. Not everything that looks harmless is safe. Not everything that feels familiar is aligned. Not everything that comes easily is meant for you. This is why awareness is your shield. Because the danger is not in something attacking you directly. It is in something inviting you subtly. An invitation to respond the old way. An invitation to think the old way. An invitation to step back into a pattern you were already being led out of. And if you accept that invitation without awareness, you will feel the shift immediately afterward. A heaviness, a confusion, a sense that something is off, but you cannot explain why. That is how subtle danger works. It does not show itself before the decision. It reveals itself after. But this time you are being warned before. You are being shown what is approaching so that when it arrives, you do not meet it blindly. Because once you see it, it loses its power. Once you recognize it, it cannot deceive you. Once you pause instead of reacting, you break the pattern completely. There is something else you need to hear. This moment is not just about avoidance. It is about elevation. Because every time you choose awareness over reaction, you step into a higher level of alignment. Every time you listen to that quiet inner voice instead of the loud external noise, you strengthen your discernment. Every time you pause instead of rushing, you protect your path. And that is what heaven is preparing you for. Not just to avoid what is coming, but to rise above it, to move through it untouched, to come out of it stronger, clearer, and more aligned than before. This is why the warning feels intense. Not because something terrible is guaranteed to happen, but because something significant is trying to shift your direction, and heaven is intervening before it does. So when the moment comes, and it will come, remember this. Pause. Observe. Listen. Do not rush. Do not react. Because what seems small is not small. What feels ordinary is not ordinary. And what appears suddenly has been forming for longer than you realize. You are not being left alone in this. You are being guided through it, protected within it, positioned beyond it. And the next section will reveal the signs that have already been surrounding you, the signals you may have missed, and how they have been preparing you for this exact moment. Type "I choose discernment" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 333 is now activating your awareness. And as this truth settles into your spirit, understand this: messages like this are not just words, they are seeds. Seeds of light being sown into lives that are on the edge of breakthrough or danger. Scripture declares, "Give, and it will be given to you, pressed down, shaken together, and running over." This is not just about support. This is about participation in a divine harvest. When you choose to sow through the Super Thanks or PayPal link in the description, you are helping this light reach someone who may be one message away from transformation. I feel led to say this clearly: your giving in this moment is not small. It is prophetic. It opens doors. It releases oil. It carries this message further than you can see. The link is right there, even in QR form on your screen, because obedience should be immediate. So act now, and let your seed become someone else's salvation. Before this message ever reached you, the signs had already begun. They did not start today. They did not begin with this warning. They have been unfolding quietly, steadily, patiently, woven into your daily life in ways that were easy to overlook, easy to dismiss, easy to explain away. But now, as you stand in this moment of awareness, everything begins to connect. Because nothing you have felt recently has been random. That sudden pause in your spirit when everything seemed fine on the outside, that was not imagination. That unexplainable heaviness that came and went without reason, that was not stress. That moment where you felt like withdrawing, like stepping back, like observing instead of engaging, that was not distance. That was discernment. You see, the spirit within you has been speaking long before this message gave it words. It has been trying to get your attention through feelings you could not fully explain, through thoughts that seemed out of place, through moments that felt different from your normal rhythm. And the reason it felt unfamiliar is because it was not coming from your mind. It was coming from a deeper place. A place that sees beyond appearances. A place that senses before it understands. A place that recognizes shifts before they become visible. You may remember certain moments now as you hear this. Moments where you questioned yourself. Moments where you said, "Why do I feel this way?" Moments where something inside you said, "Pay attention," but you moved forward anyway because nothing looked wrong. That is how subtle guidance works. It does not force. It invites. It does not shout. It whispers. And if you are not used to listening to it, you can mistake it for overthinking, for anxiety, for doubt. But it is none of those things. It is awareness trying to rise above distraction. Archangel Michael reveals this clearly. The signs were not hidden. They were simply quiet. And you were surrounded by noise. Think about how many times you have been pulled in different directions lately. How many distractions have filled your time? How many conversations, responsibilities, thoughts, and obligations have occupied your attention? It becomes easy in that environment to miss the subtle signals, to overlook the quiet nudges, to silence the inner voice without even realizing it. But despite all of that, the signals continued. You may have noticed patterns repeating. The same thought appearing again and again. The same feeling returning at unexpected moments. The same sense that something was shifting, even if you could not define what that shift was. Those patterns were not coincidences. They were alignment attempts. They were moments where heaven was trying to pull your attention back to awareness, back to stillness, back to clarity. Because when something significant is approaching, the preparation does not begin at the moment it arrives. It begins before. It begins in the small things, in the subtle changes, in the inner signals that prepare you without overwhelming you. But there is something important you must understand now. The signs alone are not enough. They are only effective if you acknowledge them, if you recognize them, if you trust them. Because the danger has never been that you are unaware. The danger is that you doubt what you already feel, that you question your own perception, that you override your inner knowing with external logic, that you convince yourself that what you feel is not real simply because you cannot explain it yet. And that is the pattern that must break now. Because as what is approaching draws closer, those same signals will intensify. The feeling will become stronger. The awareness will become clearer. The inner voice will become more direct. And in that moment, you will have a choice: to trust it or to ignore it again. This is why you are being reminded of the signs now, so that when they appear again, you recognize them instantly. So that when that feeling rises, you do not dismiss it. So that when something feels off, you pause instead of proceeding. Because awareness is not about knowing everything. It is about listening when something inside you says, stop. It is about trusting when something inside you says, wait. It is about observing when something inside you says, look closer. You have been given that ability for a reason. Not everyone listens to it. Not everyone recognizes it. Not everyone is willing to pause when the world is moving quickly. But you are being called to do exactly that now. To slow down internally. To become present. To become aware of what is happening within you as much as what is happening around you. Because the signs are not outside of you. They are within you. They always have been. And they have been preparing you for this exact moment. This moment where awareness meets understanding. Where feeling meets clarity. Where intuition meets confirmation. And as you move into what comes next, you will begin to see how everything you felt, everything you noticed, everything you questioned was leading you here. Leading you to this point of recognition. This point of readiness. This point where you are no longer moving blindly, but intentionally. The next section will take you deeper into what is truly working behind the scenes, a silent strategy that has been unfolding around you and why it has been so carefully hidden until now. Type "I trust the signs" in the comments if you receive this message. Lesson code 444 is now strengthening your intuition. What you are facing is not random. It is not accidental. It is not simply life unfolding in unpredictable ways. There is a pattern behind it. A strategy that has been operating quietly, patiently, and deliberately. And the reason you have not fully recognized it until now is because it was never meant to be obvious. Because the most effective strategies are the ones that go unnoticed. Archangel Michael reveals something that may shift the way you see everything around you. The opposition you are experiencing is not working through force. It is not attacking loudly. It is not creating chaos that would immediately alert you. Instead, it is moving through subtlety, through timing, through moments that appear ordinary, but are carefully placed to influence your direction. This is what makes it dangerous. Because when something is obvious, you defend against it. But when something is hidden, you cooperate with it without realizing it. Think about the recent moments in your life where things felt slightly off, but not enough to stop you. Moments where you hesitated for a second, but then continued anyway. Moments where you felt a quiet resistance inside, but you overrode it with logic or habit. That is where the strategy operates. Not in the big decisions, but in the small ones. Not in the obvious dangers, but in the subtle shifts. Because if something can influence your small decisions, it can redirect your larger path without ever confronting you directly. That is the level of precision you are dealing with. This strategy does not need to overwhelm you. It only needs to nudge you. A slight delay here, a moment of confusion there, a feeling of doubt at the exact time you need clarity, a distraction at the exact time you need focus, a conversation that shifts your perspective just enough to lead you slightly off course. And over time, those small shifts accumulate. They create distance. Distance from clarity. Distance from alignment. Distance from the path you were originally moving on. And the most deceptive part is this. You may still feel like you are moving forward. You may still feel like things are normal. But internally, something begins to feel disconnected, unsettled, unclear. And that is not by accident. That is the effect of a silent strategy working beneath the surface. Archangel Michael speaks with authority here. The enemy does not need to stop you completely. It only needs to redirect you slightly. Because a small shift now can create a significant difference later. This is why awareness is being emphasized so strongly. Because once you see the pattern, it loses its control. Once you recognize the strategy, you stop participating in it unconsciously. Once you become aware of how these subtle moments influence your decisions, you begin to reclaim control over your direction. And that is exactly what this moment is about. Reclaiming your direction. Because up until now, there may have been moments where you felt like you were not fully in control of your path. Moments where things did not make sense. Moments where outcomes did not match your intentions. Moments where you wondered how you ended up in certain situations that you never consciously chose. This is where clarity begins. Not in blaming, not in fear, but in understanding. Understanding that not everything that influenced you came from you. Understanding that not every thought you had aligned with your truth. Understanding that not every opportunity presented to you was meant for you. And most importantly, understanding that you have the ability to step out of that influence now. Because once you are aware of the strategy, you are no longer vulnerable to it in the same way. You begin to question things more deeply. You begin to pause before responding. You begin to observe patterns instead of reacting to them. You begin to trust your inner signals instead of dismissing them. And in doing so, you break the cycle. You disrupt the pattern. You stop the silent redirection. There is something else you need to hear. This strategy hath been patient. It has not rushed. It has not forced outcomes. It has waited for moments where you were distracted, tired, overwhelmed, or uncertain. Because those are the moments where subtle influence becomes easier. But now you are no longer in that state. And now you are aware. And now you are present. And now you are paying attention. And that changes everything. Because awareness is not passive. It is active protection. It is the ability to see what is happening beneath the surface and choose differently. And as you move forward from this point, you will begin to notice things you did not notice before. Patterns that once felt normal will now stand out. Moments that once passed unnoticed will now feel significant. That is not coincidence. That is clarity activating. That is you stepping into a higher level of perception. And this is only the beginning. Because what comes next will reveal why you specifically were chosen to receive this warning and what it means about your role in what is unfolding. Type ISE the truth in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 555 is now strengthening your awareness. There is a reason this message reached you and not someone else. Out of countless people, countless moments, countless distractions that could have pulled your attention away, you are still here. You are still listening. You are still present in this message. And that alone should tell you something important. This was not random selection. This was alignment. Because not everyone would have paused. Not everyone would have felt something when they read the title. Not everyone would have stayed long enough to hear what is being revealed. What you did. And that is because something within you is still responsive to truth. Still sensitive. Still awake. Archangel Michael reveals this clearly. The message does not reach those who are close. It reaches those who are ready, even if they do not fully understand why. You were not chosen because you are perfect. You were not chosen because you know everything. You were chosen because you are willing to listen. Because somewhere within you, beyond the noise, beyond the distractions, beyond the routine of daily life, there is still a part of you that pauses when something feels real. A part of you that does not ignore completely. A part of you that senses when something carries weight. And that is enough. That is all that is required for alignment to begin. You may not have seen yourself this way before. You may have questioned your own awareness. You may have doubted your own intuition. You may have thought that your sensitivity was a weakness, something that made you overthink or feel too much. But what you are beginning to understand now is that it is not weakness. It is access. It is the ability to receive what others overlook. It is the ability to sense what others ignore. It is the ability to pause when others rush. And in moments like this, that ability becomes protection. Because if you were not sensitive to this message, you would have skipped it. If you were not aligned enough to feel something, you would have dismissed it. If you were not ready, you would not have stayed. What you did, and that means something within you is already connected to what is being revealed. There is another layer to this that you must understand. Being chosen to receive a warning is not just about protection. It is about responsibility. Because once you become aware, you cannot return to the same level of unconsciousness. Once you see something, you cannot unsee it. Once you recognize a pattern, you cannot pretend it is not there. And that is where your role begins. Not as someone who is passive, but as someone who is aware, someone who observes, someone who moves differently because they understand that every moment carries weight. This does not mean you have to change everything immediately. It means you begin to pay attention to yourself, to your environment, to the decisions you are making in real time. Because awareness is not about fear, it is about clarity. And clarity allows you to move with intention instead of habit. Archangel Michael speaks again. You were not brought here to be afraid. You were brought here to be prepared. Preparation is what separates those who are caught off guard from those who move through situations with control. And right now, you are being prepared. Prepared to notice what others miss. Prepared to pause when others react. Prepared to step back when something does not feel aligned. Prepared to choose differently when the moment arrives. There is something else that makes this moment significant for you. This is not the first time you have felt something like this. There have been other moments in your life where you sensed something before it happened. Moments where you felt a shift before it became visible. Moments where you knew something without knowing how you knew it. And in some of those moments you listened. And in others you did not. And the difference between those outcomes taught you something, even if you did not fully recognize it at the time. And now, those experiences are coming together. And now, your awareness is becoming sharper. And now, your ability to recognize patterns is becoming clearer. And that is why this message reached you now, not earlier, not later. Now, because you are at a point where you can actually use what is being revealed, where you can apply it, where you can act on it, where you can move differently because of it. This is not about predicting the future. It is about preparing for what is already unfolding. And you have been given something that many people ignore. A moment to pause. A moment to become aware. A moment to shift how you respond. And that moment is what will make the difference. Because what comes next will require you to make a decision. Not a dramatic one. Not a life-altering one in appearance. But a precise one. A subtle one. A moment where you either follow your awareness or fall back into habit. And now, you understand why you were brought here. So that when that moment arrives, you are ready. You are present. You are aligned. And you choose differently. The next section will reveal the role of Archangel Michael in this moment and how that presence is actively working around you even now. Type "I am ready" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 777 is now activating your alignment. There is a presence around you right now that you cannot see, but it is real. It is not distant. It is not symbolic. It is not something abstract meant only for belief. It is active. It is intentional. It is precise. And it is moving in alignment with what is unfolding in your life at this exact moment. Archangel Michael is not standing far away, observing passively. He is positioned close, closer than you realize, not as a figure of comfort alone, but as a guardian of alignment, a protector of timing, and a defender against what seeks to move unseen. You must understand this clearly. His role in this moment is not to remove every challenge. It is to reveal what is hidden. Because protection does not always come through prevention. Sometimes it comes through awareness. Archangel Michael speaks with authority now. I do not always stop the moment from arriving. I ensure you are prepared when it does. That changes everything. Because it means what you are facing is not something you are meant to avoid completely. It is something you are meant to navigate differently. And you are not navigating it alone. His presence operates in ways that are subtle but unmistakable once you become aware of them. It shows up in the pause you feel when you are about to act too quickly. It shows up in the hesitation that stops you from saying something you might regret. It shows up in the sudden clarity that interrupts confusion at the exact moment you need to see clearly. Those are not random interruptions. Those are interventions. Moments where something higher steps in, not to control your choices, but to give you the space to choose differently. And that is what his role is in your life right now. To create space between impulse and action. To create clarity between confusion and decision. To create stillness in moments where everything seems to move too quickly. Because within that space you gain control. You gain awareness. You gain the ability to move with intention instead of reaction. There is something else that must be understood. Archangel Michael does not force alignment. He supports it. He does not override your will. He strengthens your awareness, which means the connection between you and this protection depends on your willingness to listen. A pause. You observe. To not rush through moments that require attention. Because when you rush, you bypass the very guidance that is trying to reach you. But when you slow down even slightly, you begin to notice something different. A calmness that does not match the situation. A clarity that arrives without effort. A sense that you should wait even when everything around you is pushing you to move. That is not hesitation. That is alignment. That is protection working in real time. Archangel Michael reveals another layer. My presence is not always recognized as strength. Often, it is felt as stillness. This is important, because you may expect protection to feel powerful, overwhelming, obvious. But in reality, it often feels quiet. It feels like a simple decision to wait. A subtle shift in direction. A moment where you choose not to engage. And those small choices create major outcomes. Because what is being prevented is not always visible. What is being avoided is not always obvious. But the result is clear. You remain aligned. You remain steady. You remain unaffected by what could have pulled you off course. There is something happening right now as you hear this. Your awareness is increasing. Your perception is sharpening. Your ability to recognize these moments is becoming stronger. And that is not by accident. That is the activation of the protection that has always been available to you. But now you are conscious of it. Now you can work with it. Now you can respond to it. Because the presence of Archangel Michael is not just around you. It is interacting with you, guiding you through small signals, through quiet awareness, through moments that feel different enough for you to notice, if you are paying attention. And that is the key. Attention. Because protection without awareness can still be missed. Guidance without attention can still be ignored. But awareness changes everything. It turns subtle signals into clear direction. It turns quiet nudges into confident decisions. It turns uncertainty into stability. You are not expected to understand everything. You are not expected to see every outcome. You are only expected to stay aware, to stay present, to stay connected to what you feel in the moment. Because that is where the guidance exists. That is where the protection operates. That is where Archangel Michael is actively working on your behalf. And as what is approaching draws closer, his role becomes even more significant. Not because the situation becomes more dangerous, but because your awareness becomes more critical. The next section will reveal the critical decision that is coming, the moment where everything you have heard so far will come into play and how one choice will determine your direction moving forward. Type "I am protected" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 888 is now surrounding your spirit. There's a moment coming, and it will not look like a turning point. It will not announce itself as something important. It will not arrive with intensity or pressure. It will not feel like a major decision that carries weight. In fact, if you are not paying attention, you may not even recognize it as a decision at all. And that is exactly why it matters so much. Because the most critical decisions in your life are rarely the ones that feel dramatic. They are the quiet ones, the subtle ones, the ones that happen in seconds, the ones where you either follow your awareness or fall back into habit. Archangel Michael reveals this clearly now. The moment will feel familiar, but your response must be different. That is the key. Because what is approaching is not entirely new. It is connected to something you have already experienced before. A pattern, a type of situation, a familiar energy. Something that has appeared in your life in a similar form, but perhaps with a slightly different face, a slightly different timing, a slightly different context. And in the past, you responded a certain way. You reacted quickly. You trusted too soon. You moved without pausing. You ignored the quiet signal within you because everything looked normal on the outside. And later you understood. Later you saw what you missed. Later, you felt the shift that could have been avoided. But this time it is different. Because this time, you are aware before the moment arrives. This time, you are being prepared before the decision is placed in front of you. This time, you are not walking into it blindly. And that changes everything. Because when the moment comes, and it will come, it will test one thing above all else. Not your strength, not your intelligence, not your experience, your awareness. It will test whether you pause or proceed, whether you listen or ignore, whether you observe or react. And the difference between those two responses will determine everything that follows. Because a reaction comes from habit, but a decision comes from awareness. And habit will repeat the past, but awareness will change the outcome. This is why this moment is so critical. Not because it is large, but because it is precise. It is a point where your old pattern meets your new awareness, where your previous way of responding meets your current level of clarity, where who you were meets who you are becoming. And in that intersection, you will choose. You may not even realize it at first. It may feel like a simple response, a quick answer, a small action. But within that small moment there is direction. There is alignment. There is consequence. Archangel Michael speaks again. Do not rush the moment. What appears small carries weight. This is where your awareness becomes active, where everything you have heard so far comes into play. Because when the moment arrives, it will try to move quickly. It will feel like something that needs an immediate response. It will feel like something that cannot wait. And that is where the danger lies. Because urgency in the external world can sometimes be misaligned with clarity in the internal world. And if you respond to external urgency without internal clarity, you disconnect from your protection. That is why you must slow down, even if it is just for a second, even if it is just a pause. Because within that pause, everything becomes clear. You will feel it. That quiet signal, a subtle shift, that inner voice that says, wait, or look closer, or do not move the same way. That is your moment. That is the point where you break the pattern, where you choose awareness over habit, where you step into alignment instead of repeating what you have always done. And when you do that, something powerful happens. The outcome changes. The direction shifts. What could have pulled you off course no longer has the same effect. Not because the situation changed, but because you did. That is the power of this decision. It is not about controlling everything around you. It is about controlling how you respond within it. Because your response determines your path, and your path determines what unfolds next. You are not being asked to do something complicated. You are being asked to do something simple but intentional. Pause. Observe. Listen. Choose. And in that choice, everything shifts. Because this is not just a moment. It is a turning point disguised as something ordinary. A test disguised as something familiar. A decision disguised as something small. But now you see it. Now you understand it. Now you are ready for it. And the next section will reveal what happens if this moment is ignored, what unfolds when awareness is dismissed, and why this warning could not be delayed. Type "I choose wisely" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 999 is now sealing your decision. And as you stand at this critical moment of decision, hear this in your spirit. Every message like this is a seed planted into lives standing on the edge of transformation. The word says, "Those who sow in tears shall reap in joy," and right now, your act of giving becomes a seed that waters someone else's breakthrough. I feel led to say this clearly. I am not just supporting a channel, I'm fueling a divine assignment to reach souls before it is too late. When you release your seed through Super Thanks or the PayPal link in the description, you are opening the heavens over lives you may never meet, yet eternally impact. This is not just generosity, this is obedience in motion, a prophetic act that multiplies light in a world fighting darkness. The link is already positioned for you, even in QR form on your screen, because divine moments require immediate response. So step into this moment, and let your giving speak where your words cannot. There's a path, and then there is a pattern. And if this moment is ignored, the path does not disappear, but the pattern continues. That is what you must understand clearly. Because nothing dramatic may happen immediately if you dismiss this. Nothing may seem wrong in the next hour, or even the next day. Life may appear to continue as usual. The same routines, the same interactions, the same flow of events that feel familiar and predictable. But beneath that surface, something begins to shift. Quietly, subtly, almost unnoticeably. Because when awareness is ignored, you do not step into something new, you fall back into something old. And that old pattern has already shown you what it leads to. Archangel Michael reveals this with clarity. Ignoring truth does not remove consequence. It only delays your recognition of it. It is the danger, not immediate collapse, but delayed realization. Moments where later you say, "I felt something, but I didn't listen." Moments where you look back and see the signs clearly, but by then the situation has already unfolded. Moments where you recognize the exact point where things could have changed, but that point has already passed. And that is what this warning is trying to prevent. Because once a moment passes, it does not return in the same form. The opportunity to respond differently exists only within that moment. And if it has missed, the pattern continues until it presents itself again, often with greater intensity. This is how cycles form, not through one major decision, but through repeated small moments where awareness was available but not used. And over time, those moments create direction. They create outcomes. They create situations that feel unavoidable, even though they were built step by step through unnoticed choices. This is why ignoring this message does not mean nothing happens. It means something continues. Something that has already been repeating in your life in different ways. A pattern of reacting too quickly. A pattern of trusting too easily. A pattern of overlooking subtle signals. A pattern of moving forward when something inside you said to pause. And every time that pattern repeats, it reinforces itself. It becomes stronger. It becomes more familiar. It becomes more automatic. Until eventually, you no longer question it. You simply follow it. That is the real risk. Not a single moment, but the continuation of a pattern that slowly shapes your path without your full awareness. Archangel Michael speaks again. You are not being warned about a single event. You are being warned about a pattern that must end. That is why this moment matters so deeply. Because this is where the pattern can be interrupted, where the cycle can be broken, where the outcome can be changed. But only if awareness is applied. Only if you recognize the moment when it arrives. Only if you choose differently when it matters. If you ignore this, you will not lose everything instantly. But you may lose clarity. You may lose alignment. You may find yourself in a situation that feels confusing, unexpected, or difficult to navigate. Not because it was unavoidable, but because the moment that could have shifted it was missed. And when that happens, it becomes harder to trace it back, harder to see where things change, harder to understand why things feel different. Because the shift was subtle, the decision was small, the moment was quiet, but the impact builds over time. This is why you must not treat this casually, not because of fear, but because of understanding. Understanding that awareness is a responsibility once it is given. Understanding that clarity requires action. Understanding that preparation is only useful if it is applied. You have been given insight before impact. You have been shown what to watch for. You have been prepared for what is approaching. And now, the responsibility is simple. To remain aware. To not drift. To not dismiss what you feel. To not return to automatic responses when something requires intentional action. Because the difference between repeating the past and stepping into something new is one decision. One pause. One moment where you choose awareness over habit. And that moment is coming. You will recognize it if you stay present. You will feel it if you remain connected. You will know it if you trust what has been revealed to you. And when that moment arrives, you will understand exactly why this message could not be ignored. The next section will reveal the protection that is already being released over you, what is surrounding you even now, and how it is working in alignment with your awareness. Type "I will not ignore" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1212 is now strengthening your focus. There is something surrounding you in this moment, even as you listen, even as you process, even as your awareness begins to deepen. It is not something you can touch. It is not something you can measure. But it is something you can sense. if you become still enough to feel it. Because protection is not always loud. It does not always announce itself with visible signs. Often, it moves quietly, steadily, positioning itself around you before you even realize you need it. And that is exactly what is happening right now. Archangel Michael is not only revealing what is approaching, he is also releasing what is required to stand through it untouched. This is not future protection. This is present, active, already in motion. You are not waiting for it. You are within it. But here is what you must understand clearly. Protection does not replace awareness. It works with it. Because protection creates the boundary, but awareness keeps you within it. Archangel Michael speaks with precision here. I surround you, but you must remain aligned. Protection cannot override unconscious movement. That is the truth that changes everything. Because you are not being shielded blindly. You are being guided intentionally. Every moment you pause instead of reacting, you stay within that protection. Every time you listen instead of rushing, you remain aligned with it. Every time you choose awareness over habit, you strengthen it. This is how he operates. Not as something external that controls your life, but as something that responds to your alignment in real time. You may have already experienced this without fully recognizing it. Moments where something did not happen, but later you realized it could have. Moments where you avoided something without knowing why. Moments where a situation shifted unexpectedly in your favor, even though it seemed uncertain at first. That was not coincidence. That was protection. Working quietly. Working precisely. Working in ways that do not always announce themselves but always matter. And right now, that same protection is intensifying. Not because you are in danger, but because you are in a moment that requires heightened awareness. There is a difference. Protection does not only activate in response to harm. It activates in response to significance. And this moment is significant. Because what is approaching is not meant to overpower you, but it is meant to test your awareness. And protection ensures that you are not alone within that test. There is something else happening beneath the surface. As your awareness increases, your connection to this protection becomes stronger. You begin to recognize it more clearly. You begin to trust it more naturally. You begin to respond to it more consistently. And that is when it becomes something you can rely on, not just something you hope for. Archangel Michael reveals another layer. Protection is not only what stands around you. It is what moves through you when you choose correctly. This means your decisions are not separate from your protection. They are part of it. Every aligned decision strengthens your position. Every aware response reinforces your direction. Every moment of stillness keeps you grounded in clarity. And that is why this is not about waiting for something to happen. It is about recognizing what is already happening. Because right now, there is a covering over your path. A boundary that prevents what is misaligned from fully reaching you, as long as you remain aware. A presence that guides your attention toward what matters and away from what does not. A stillness that allows you to see clearly when everything around you tries to move quickly. This is not something distant. This is something active. Something present. Something responding to your awareness in real time. But here is where many people miss it. They expect protection to remove every challenge. They expect it to prevent every situation. They expect it to make everything easy and obvious. But that is not how it works. Protection does not eliminate every moment. It ensures that within every moment you have the ability to respond correctly. And that is far more powerful. Because it means you are not dependent on circumstances. You are aligned within them. It means you are not controlled by what happens around you. You are steady regardless of it. It means you are not reacting blindly. You are choosing intentionally. And that is what keeps you grounded. That is what keeps you clear. That is what keeps you protected. Because protection is not just something around you. It is something you participate in. Something you activate through awareness. Something you strengthen through alignment. And right now it is already in place. Already surrounding you. Already guiding you. Already preparing you for what is next. The next section will bring you into the final instructions before the appointed hour, the exact posture you must hold and how to remain aligned as the moment approaches. Type "I am" covered in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 2020 is now surrounding your path. Now you have reached the moment where everything becomes simple but not easy. Because the truth is, preparation does not require complexity. It requires discipline. It requires awareness. It requires a willingness to hold your position even when everything around you tries to pull you out of it. This is where the final instruction comes in. Not as something complicated, but as something precise. Something you must carry with you into the next hours, into the next moments, into the exact point where the decision will present itself. Archangel Michael speaks now with clarity and calm authority. Remain still, remain aware, and do not be moved by urgency that does not come from within. That is your instruction. Stillness, awareness, discernment. Because what is approaching will try to move quickly. It will feel like something that needs your immediate response. It will feel like something that cannot wait. It may come through a conversation, a message, a sudden situation, or an unexpected shift in your environment. And when it does, your instinct may be to respond immediately. To follow the pace of what is happening around you. But this is where you must do the opposite. You must slow down internally even if everything externally feels fast. You must pause even if it feels like there is no time to pause. Because within that pause clarity enters. Within that stillness alignment strengthens. Within that moment of awareness you see what is real and what is not. This is not about hesitation. It is about control. Because when you control your response, you control your direction. And when you control your direction, you remain aligned. There is something else you must understand before the appointed hour arrives. Your environment may not change. The people around you may act the same. The situation may look completely normal. That is intentional. Because this is not about external change. It is about internal awareness. You are not being asked to wait for something obvious. You are being asked to recognize something subtle. And that requires you to stay present. To not drift into distraction. To not lose focus. To not return to automatic behavior. Because automatic behavior is what the moment relies on. It relies on you acting the way you always have. Responding the way you always do. Moving without thinking. Speaking without pausing. Deciding without observing. But you are no longer in that state. You have been prepared. You have been made aware. You have been positioned differently. And now, you must remain in that position. Archangel Michael reveals something important here. The moment will pass quickly. But your awareness must not. That is why you must stay grounded. Not tense. Not anxious. Not overthinking. Grounded. Calm. Present. Because awareness does not come from pressure. It comes from stillness. It comes from being centered within yourself. It comes from trusting what you feel without needing immediate confirmation from the outside. There will be a temptation to second-guess yourself. A temptation to dismiss what you feel because everything looks normal. A temptation to follow the familiar response because it feels easier. But this is where you must hold your ground, because the familiar response leads to the familiar outcome. And that is what you are stepping out of. You are stepping into something different, something more aligned, something more intentional, something that requires you to trust yourself in real time. And that is what this final instruction is about. Trust, not blind trust, not forced belief, but a quiet confidence in your awareness, a willingness to listen to what you feel even if it does not match what you see, a decision to pause even if everything around you is moving, a commitment to respond differently even if the moment feels the same. Because this is not about changing the moment. It is about changing your response within it. And that is what shifts everything. There is one more thing you must carry with you. Do not speak too quickly. Do not commit too quickly. Do not move too quickly. Because speed is where awareness is lost, and stillness is where clarity is found. You are not being asked to withdraw. You are being asked to observe, to remain engaged but aware, present but not reactive, connected but not controlled by the moment. Because when you hold that position, nothing can pull you off course, and nothing can redirect you without your awareness. Nothing can influence you without your consent. And that is where your strength lies, not in force, not in resistance, but in awareness. This is your final instruction before the moment arrives. And if you hold this, if you remain in this state, you will move through what is coming with clarity, control, and alignment. The final section will reveal what lies beyond this moment, what happens when you pass through this test, and what has been waiting for you on the other side. Type "I will stay aware" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 2323 is now sealing your focus. You have reached the edge of the moment, and now you must understand what lies beyond it. Because this was never only about warning you. It was never only about preparing you. It was always about positioning you for something greater than the moment itself. Something that cannot be seen until you move through this with awareness. Something that cannot be received until you choose alignment over habit. Because on the other side of this moment there is clarity waiting. There is stability waiting. There is a version of you that no longer moves unconsciously, no longer reacts automatically, no longer questions what you feel within. That is the outcome. Not fear, not confusion, but transformation. Archangel Michael reveals this final truth. This was not sent to limit you. It was sent to elevate you beyond what you have repeated. That is what makes this moment sacred. Because every time a pattern is broken, a new path opens. Every time awareness is chosen, alignment becomes stronger. Every time you pause instead of reacting, you step into a higher level of control over your life. And that is what had been prepared for you. Not just protection from what is coming, but elevation through it. You see, many people move through moments like this without awareness. They repeat the same responses. They follow the same patterns. They end up in the same outcomes, wondering why nothing changes. But you are no longer in that position. You have been shown what to look for. You have been given the instruction. You have been made aware before the moment arrives. And that changes your outcome completely. Because when the moment comes, and it will, you will recognize it. You will feel it. You will pause. You will choose differently. And in that choice something breaks. Not outside of you. Within you. The pattern that once controlled your responses loses its hold. The habit that once directed your decisions no longer has the same influence. The cycle that once repeated itself quietly ends. And in its place something new begins. Clarity. Confidence. Alignment. You will begin to move through situations with a sense of control you did not have before. You will notice things sooner. You will trust your awareness more naturally. You will respond with intention instead of impulse. And slowly your path begins to shift. Not dramatically at first, but steadily, consistently, in ways that build over time. This is how transformation happens. Not in one large moment, but in one precise decision that changes the direction of everything that follows. Archangel Michael speaks one final time. What you choose in silence will shape what you experience in reality. That is the truth you carry forward. Because this moment, this message, this awareness, it does not end here. It continues with you, into your next decision, into your next interaction, into your next step. And the more you apply it, the stronger it becomes, the clearer it becomes, the more natural it becomes, until eventually awareness is no longer something you try to maintain. It becomes who you are, and that is what had been prepared for you all along. Not just a moment of protection, but a shift in how you live, how you respond, how you move through your life. This was never about fear. It was about awakening. And now you are awake. So when the moment arrives, you will not hesitate. You will not doubt. You will not fall back into what you once did. You will choose differently. And in that choice, everything changes. Type "I am aligned" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 3030 is now sealing your transformation. And as this revelation settles into your spirit, hear this clearly. This message did not come just for you to hear, but for others to be reached through you. The word declares, "Cast your bread upon the waters, and it will return to you." And right now, your giving becomes a ripple that carries this light into lives standing on the edge of darkness. I feel led to say this with authority. I am not just giving, I am releasing a seed that God will multiply into someone's awakening, someone's protection, someone's breakthrough. When you act now through the super thanks, with a PayPal link in the description, you are stepping into a prophetic flow where heaven meets obedience. This is not a casual moment. This is a divine opportunity to fuel a mission that is reaching souls at the exact moment they need it. The link is already positioned for you, even in QR form on your screen, because delay is not part of your calling. So move now, and let your seed become a voice that carries God's message further than you can see.